Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to invite our distinguished speaker, who's Miss Yashshri Khatri. Again, Miss Khatri, it's a staff writer for DevPulse.Info. Well, Yashshri, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Again, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you on my podcast. As I mentioned before, initially when I discovered you, because of this amazing article that you wrote, which is entitled Nepal's Digital Divide, Why Millions Still Lack Affordable Internet Access. We know that today, when we look at Nepal, it's one of the critical countries in the world, but we talk about this digital divide. I want to get started. The first question is, why do you think that today the official metrics like the subscription data have become so misleading? And what do you think the policymakers use instead to measure the true connectivity? Your thoughts?
Okay, right. So when we start from the stats part, so those numbers sounds incredible and sounds like overachievements until we understand what's actually is being counted. So according to the data from Nepal Telecommunications Authority, so it is actually counting the subscriptions. That's the number of the SIM cards and the fixed broadband lines. And it's not about the individuals and households. So, if we're gonna say that it is counting me as a twice. If I'm using a SIM and a fixed broadband line, that's Wi-Fi, it is counting me twice. So the data is counting me twice. So, and the moment we look at the data that actually measures people, so the picture changes completely. So from the data, it's Data Reporter's digital report. I think from 2026, Nepal reports around only 56% of the population was online at that time. So it's the vast differences on paper and actually on the subscription side, and one actually using the internet. So of the population, nearly around 16.6 million people are offline today. So we can actually say that the subscription counts if we can say the subscription count the online people, they are neither fully online and neither fully offline. So it is the between zone between the online and offline. And even in that 56%, Nepal broadband makes about 94% of all of the subscription, but digital literacy is only on the 31% side. They track internet usage globally, so they estimated that as of late 2025, about 56% of Nepal's population was actually online, which means that around 13 million people are still completely offline. And if you get even more specific, on the household level, the Nepal Living Standards Survey puts around 40% household actually gets the internet. So we go from 145% to 40%. So that's the huge differences. And it gets even more stark when we look at the poorest household. So about 20% of the Nepal's population live under the poverty. And from that, only 9.5% have internet access at home. So that's around 9.5%. So those people who couldn't generally get the benefit from being online, they should get the facility of being online and get the access. So the question moves around. It doesn't move around with the technology. It moves around the inclusivity. So this is the one side of the story. There are two sides of the story. We can the data only say about the urban areas, and the rural areas are not included in that data. So I think from the governmental side, three things really matter. One is including the household access. So can actually the family are getting online at the home? So are they getting actual usability out of the internet, or they can actually load the video or use the internet for something useful?
Well,
So on the
Go ahead.
And the second, okay, let me complete that. On the second side, I think the it's not about the subscriptions. It's about the usability and in SIM card. And if people are changing the SIM cards, it doesn't say about how they are measured in the online terms. So it doesn't tell you that if the SIM card is changing anyone's life. And by the way, there's also this incredible regional gap that is hiding the headline numbers. So the Kathmandu Valley and the capital of Nepal has about 79% internet coverage. But on the other side, the Karnali province, one of the remote state of the Nepal, that is mountainous region, it has only 14% of the internet coverage. So one same country is telling us the two different stories.
Well, again, it's rather fascinating to listen to the demand of the internet. But meanwhile, again, according to your previous answer, it's almost unfathomable to think about that this affordability of the internet connection in the nation of Nepal. I mean, it's almost, I would say, surprisingly to see what's happening right now. I want to keep our conversation going. Again, in the story, that you wrote someone or about someone that pay 1,000 to 1,500 rupees per month for a connection that can't really support the digital payments or load educational content. So, Yashshri, I want to ask the question, from your perspective, in the year of 2026, how would you reframe the affordability debate to focus on the value for money rather than just the price per gigabytes? Because again, when we talk about, the internet access and we talk about the global economy, and everyone tends to focus on the bigger picture, we're seeing this trade relationships, this infrastructure, we're talking about this growth of the city, of a country. These things are far more important. But when it comes to domestic issues for Nepal, again, how would you argue this affordability debate on the value for money rather than just the price paying for specific gigabytes? Your thoughts?
Okay, so Lakshmi's story is one of those things that really hit me while I was reporting and writing this piece because she's doing everything right. She's a student, she's paying her bill every month to access the internet. So she's trying to participate in this digital world. But her connection is unstable. So in Baitari, when she tries to access to the internet, her connection is unstable. So when it during the unsuitable weather conditions, when it rains, it disappears during power cuts, like same as it happens to me now. So that she generally can't do the basic things that students in the urban areas just take for granted. So the digital payments fail when she do that. So she can't download study materials, she can't stream a lecture. So the question shifts from the accessibility to affordability and inclusivity. So, and that's the reframe I think the whole affordability conversation needs. So right now, everyone is focused on the price per gigabyte. So is it cheap enough? But the better question is, what are we actually getting for the price we are paying? So is it the internet is usable or just the idea of the internet? So Nepal's internet is among the cheapest in South Asia from the recent data I have read, particularly for the mobile data and fixed broadband. So Nepal ranks in second in South Asia and 10th globally for having the cheapest 1 GB data. But Nepal's gross national income is lower. So its per capita income of Nepali people is around 1,049 US dollar. So that is how that cost. So despite looking fairly cheap, it becomes very hard for the common Nepali people to pay for only 1 GB per data. So per GB data cost grossly expensive in Nepal from economic perspective. And also they say broadband should cost also the ITUs report says that the cost should not cost more than 2% of monthly income of the people. But Nepal's fixed broadband sits at about 7.28% of the average income of the common people. So that's three and a half times over the threshold. So around mobile data costs around 57 rupees gigabyte. So that's one of the cheap. I think that's the cheapest rate. In globally in paper, we are saying that this is cheapest rate, and Nepal stands at the second in South Asia and 10th globally. But on the ground reality side, even the local people are not being able to afford the internet cost. So that's the difference. The difference comes in the form of affordability. They are getting the accessibility. Also, they are getting the accessibility of the internet, but the affordability term is not still there. And if they are being able to affordable, they are not getting the usability out of that internet. So that's the main problem here.
Well, again, Yashshri, it's surprising to listen to a description. As you mentioned before, in Nepal, it's one of the, I would say, critical, but also popular countries when we think about the bigger picture from Southeast Asia perspective. I would say before actually moving around, that I was able to travel around the countries in Southeast Asia. Look at Vietnam and Cambodia, Thailand, all those countries. But I have to say that before reading your article, again, it was almost unimaginable to understand this internet inassessment, right? Or inaccessibility in the nation of Nepal. So I want to move on to the next question. Of course, that today when we talk about, as you mentioned before, regarding this affordability of the internet access, but some critics says that comparison ignores reliability and income disparity for the country. So my next question is, where do you land on that tension, and what role does reliability play in how users perceive the cost? So in other words, we know the users or the citizens in Nepal today are paying a lot, but the stability of the internet is still a question. So from your perspective, who should shoulder much responsibilities? And also, how would you even understand that tension at this moment? Your thoughts?
So as I've said earlier, the affordability comes under the questions. So there is accessibility, but we are still lacking affordability in terms of per capita income. So from economic perspective, I think that not every common people on same money, on same amount of money. If we compare from urban areas and rural areas, they both have different per capita income. So I think that will sums up this much. Nepal's Nepal's per capita income. Now the Nepal is moving toward being developing countries, but it has still held on that, and it has halted that, and it will move to it in 2029. And also, according to the economic survey, the economy of the country is economic growth rate is only 3.38%. So I think that sums up all this, and I think we should be responsible for that. So I think the government and the internet service providers should be responsible on this part. There is the accessibility of the internet. If general people can afford that, there is not reliability of the internet. So they are not getting the signal. From one of my story that I have had in my piece, that is Narayan's story. So he's from Dolpa, one of the rural region of Nepal. So he have told me that he have to travel to ward office just to get the signal of the internet. So from as I am living in the urban area, I do not have such problems. I am getting the easy accessibility of the internet. But in that rural region, they are not even getting the signal in their own houses. They have to around move around 30 to 35 minutes to just catch the signal and to get connected to the digital world. So that sums up the real world, real ground level of the Nepal, and that's how they are not. They are paying for the money, paying the money for the internet, but they are not getting anything reliable out of it. So actually, that cost is that the payment they are making is not being counted, and that is not being usable to that. So I think the infrastructures come in the one point. So I think infrastructure should be there for the development of the internet in the rural areas. But along with that, the government should plan that infrastructures along with the proper plans so they can get out of, so the rural people get something out of it.
Well, Yashshri, I want to press you on that question regarding the role of the government. We know that today Nepal, again, as you mentioned before, has been actively branching out to many other countries, not only in Southeast Asia, but also in this global connection. Government knows this is a existing problem, and also I dare to use the word threat. I mean, again, this is crucial for citizens to gain the internet access. As you alluding to the answer before, not only the example for the person to receive the connection, but also really understand this from educational perspective. But how come the government has not done anything effective to change the situation? So in other words, we can't just kick the can down the road as we continue to explore the possibilities. So this one has been there for a while, but how come the government has not put out any effective changes or implement any strategies to change the situation? Because again, younger generations today in Nepal are in a dire situation, and internet is crucial not only to get information, but also to stay connected with the world. So again, going back to your question, Yashshri, it's what about the government's attitude, and what about the changes that perhaps has done, or that should be something done in a greater way? What do you say to that?
Okay, so I wouldn't say that government hasn't done anything. They are doing everything possible to get so that each people of the Nepal should get globally connected and get the accessible and reliable internet. So as I said, Nepal ranks second in South Asia for the cheapest per GB of mobile data. So I think that's the achievement for Nepal too. They are doing everything possible. There is connection. There is connection even in the rural Nepal. So it's not about the connection. It's about the how they are not getting usability out of it, how that connection is not reliable. So they should properly focus on the reliability of the internet more than the accessibility of the internet. Anyone can lay down the fibers and get the connection through it, but maintaining that fiber and reaching out the people and reaching that connection to every people is more than more thing, I think. So the first is there should be proper structural design for the internet reliability from the government side. And another one is, I think the internet accessibility is being questioned. Internet accessibility is being questioned in many parts of Nepal. So from that views, I think the government should partnership with the private internet service providers. So that will actually help them to combine and work on the rural Nepal. That will be a very impressive thing to do. So they can get out of it. So with the combination with the private internet service providers and the government, so that they can both work properly on that issues, on that reliability of the internet in the rural Nepal.
Yashshri, stay with me. I have two more questions before letting you go. Now, I want to ask the next question regarding what we called the digital literacy. I mean, again, this is something that you touch on the article, and you mentioned that digital literacy, it's only about 31%, and only 41% of women use the internet despite widespread mobile ownership. Yashshri, from your perspective, briefly, how would you define the term digital literacy in Nepal today? And why do you think that the number it's only 31%? Your thoughts?
Okay, no, honestly, well, I feel most strongly after doing this reporting is that we are more focused on the infrastructural side, the structural things sides, that is laying more fiber, building more towers, and that we have forgotten to ask that the tower is there, but can people actually use what it offers? And the answer in so many places is no. So they are really layered on top of each other. So let me just share a few numbers that genuinely stopped me when I come across this. So as you have said, we have only 31% digital literacy. So that digital literacy, there's often dynamic where a household has one shared phone and it's mainly used by the men. So women's access is not formal, it's borrowed, it's permitted, it's conditional. So that's when, and you can build 100 towers without touching that dynamic at all. So that's a social barrier. There's a social barrier for that digital literacy. So no infrastructure project will solve that. First, digital literacy, I think, and the digital, mostly people use the internet just for the social medias, for doom scrolling, and they are not usually getting what they need to be out of it. They are not using it properly for the education sector, health sector. They are just using it for their own personal reason. They are not usually getting what they need, what they get from it, what the benefit they should get from it. So the internet has to feel relevant to someone's actual daily life. So they know how to tap on the screen. They know how to tap on the screen, but they do not know how to access what they are needing in daily life from that internet. So another one is the language barrier. So Nepal has over 120 languages. Almost everything online is in Nepali or English. But many people have their first language like Tamang, Newari, Maithili, and millions of people first language isn't Nepali in Nepal. So the internet is just less useful to them. And even if we are physically connected, it's not that they are getting the usability out of that internet. And third is, it is specifically designed program. We need the specifically designed programs for women so they feel inclusive toward the digital literacy, not just access, but permission and confidence and the safe places to learn. So I think the human side is lagging significantly, and the communities need the internet. The ones who would benefit most from the internet, the communities are getting the least attention. So digital literacy, there is the overachievement in the internet accessibility, 145% subscription and that on paper. So we can say that is the huge achievement for the Nepal, but actually that is not how it sounds in the ground reality. Around 31% digital literacy sums it up all. So most of the growth has happened only in the cities and the urban areas, and many among people who are already somewhat connected. So the people who are genuinely left out are still left out. That's what I wanted people to feel when they read this piece and connect through this.
Well, Yashshri, I want to wrap up our conversation by asking you the last question. Again, going back to the article, it's called Nepal's Digital Divide: Why Millions Still Lack Affordable Internet Access. Despite high reported internet penetration, millions of Nepalese, especially in rural areas, remain offline or struggle with unreliable and unaffordable connections. The final question is, what would you expect the readers to understand by reading your piece? Again, as I mentioned before, Nepal is one of the crucial countries in Southeast Asia. And this is rather alarming not only to Nepal, but also to the whole world. So by reading your article, what are your expectations and hope the audience or the readers to appreciate your final thoughts?
Thank you, Will, for having me. So at last, I want to say that this piece is kind of connected to me as I've done research, asked people, and so when I found that in one place we are having that. We are overachieving the internet accessibility in Nepal. We are having the broadband subscription. We have 145% subscription, but on another side, we do not even having the reliable internet connection. They have to walk around 20 to 35 minutes to get the reliable internet access. So from out of this piece, I want to say that there many people in the Nepal are still lacking the internet. We are going to build the Nepal is having going on the right side and the right track to get the digital infrastructures in the right points and having the global connectivity. But we are still lagging on the another side, where we do not have even the reliable internet connection. So the whole article do not point at the technology, the lack of technology side. It points out at the lack of inclusivity side. So there is proper infrastructures, there is connectivity, there is accessibility. People may afford that internet, but it's not about affordability or accessibility. It's more about the usability, what they are getting out of that internet. So I think this piece talks toward the this piece talks more about the inclusion of the Nepali people. It is about how they are getting out of the internet provided by the Nepal.
Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, such an honor to speak to Ms. Yashshri Khatri. Again, Ms. Khatri, it's a staff writer for the DevPulse.Info. And again, it's a strong and amazing media outlet, report the stories about what's happening in the nation of Nepal. Well, Yashshri, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and we'd love to have you back on the show as we continue to pay attention to what's happening in the nation of Nepal and also the critical issues that the people are facing today. So thank you so much for doing this.